Hello, this video is used for the assessment module for the secondary level. The target student that I chose for this assignment was named Mitch. He's a 13-year-old male in an autistic support classroom. Mitch's most recent evaluation was done this past spring. When looking at Mitch's reevaluation report, I looked at his testing, which included the Whistler Intelligence Test for Children, the Woodcock-Johnson test for achievement, and a few social and emotional rating scales. The Conners rating scale, the Autism Spectrum rating scale were both used. In addition, the Comprehensive Assessment of Spoken Language and the Test of Language Development were used for speech services. In the adaptive behavior area, the McCartney Adaptive Behavior Evaluation Scale was used. The Whistler Intelligence Scale was used to measure Mitch's overall cognitive ability. The purpose of this test is to measure an individual's ability in a standardized setting such as a school or a home environment. In this case, it was done at a school. For academic achievement, the Woodcock-Johnson test was used. The Woodcock-Johnson is used to look at students' abilities in reading, math, and writing. The Conners rating scale was completed by both parents and teachers and Mitch's teacher to look at his academic, behavioral, and social issues in the classroom. The Autism Spectrum Rating Scale, the ASRS, is utilized to measure scales including social communication, unusual behaviors, and self-regulation, and also provides data that aligns with the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. The Comprehensive Assessment of Spoken Language, the CASL, is divided into a total of 14 subtests targeting various aspects of expressive and receptive language skills. The test of language development was used to measure expressive and receptive language skills as well. There are 6 subtests that were used in this language assessment. The subtests are combined to form composite scores of the major dimensions of language: listening, organizing, speaking, grammar, semantics, and total spoken language. For the adaptive test, the McCartney Adaptive Behavior, this was designed to be an educationally irrelevant measure of adaptive behaviors, looking at Mitch's adaptive behaviors in the classroom. Overall, on the McCartney Behavior Scale, Mitch received scores in the delayed and low average areas. For his scaled score, his scale score was a 5 in most areas. However, there were some 3s and 2s and 4s scattered throughout. Mitch's percentile rank was in the 6 for adaptive skills, 9 for conceptual domain, and social domain was in a 4. His practical domain was a 6. Looking at the Whistler Intelligence Scale, Mitch received extremely low scores in Visual Verbal Comprehension Index, Visual Spatial Index, Fluid Reasoning Index, and Processing Speed Index. His full scale IQ was very low. It was in the first percentile, and it was a 61 full scale IQ. His General Ability Index was a 64, also extremely low in the 1 percentile as well. The Whistler Intelligence Achievement Test showed that he had in the percentile for word reading 3%, word reading speed 10%, decoding 6%, numerical operations 4%, math problem solving skills 10%, spelling 4%, basic reading composite 5%, math composite 5%. The Woodcock-Johnson Achievement Test showed scores in the very low to low range. Overall, Mitch's written language was in the 1%. His mathematics were below the 1%, and his overall reading was in the 2%. His Connors rating scales were done for both the parent perspective and the teacher perspective. In the inattention area, Mitch received very elevated from his parents and elevated from the teachers. His hyperactivity, impulsive were very elevated and elevated. His peer relations were very elevated by his parents and average by the teacher. His executive functioning was very elevated by the parent and elevated by the teacher. Both parent and teacher found that his learning problems were very elevated. His ADHD was very elevated by both the parent and teacher, as well as his his overall index was very elevated by both parent and teacher for his emotional liability, as well as was just elevated. As for strengths and needs, determined by the reevaluation report, Mitch showed strengths in the areas of positive attitude for class, interactions with his peers, and completing his assignments. However, he had needs in the executive functioning skills, hyperactivity and distractibility, his adaptive skills such as self-help, functional academic skills, and social skills, his peer relations, social cues and on-topic conversations, and then improved fine motor and improved bilateral motor were also needs. After reviewing Mitch's reevaluation report, I would agree with the classification of autism for him. Due to his parent rating scales and his teacher rating scales, Mitch had high elevations in many of the areas qualifying him for autism, as well as his testing that done at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. His IQ was in the low average range. In conclusion, I would definitely agree with his classification of autism and say that his placement in a supplemental autism support class is most appropriate for him.